Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, another trade splitting one pick for many picks. We'll get nerdy on that, but the bigger question is this the trade before the trade? And we'll answer that one too next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your game day Wednesday. Don't forget Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Joining me, as always, from the wonderful West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling? Late on a trade Tuesday, Ben Garcia.
Little upset that I didn't get to react to that game with you yesterday. Unlike Brendon, some of us actually have jobs. I didn't even, I meant to tell you this too, because it was so bad. I didn't watch 1 second of that game. I haven't looked at a highlight. I haven't looked at anything because I was just annoyed with what comes with every time the Suns lose. But my one take from it was, and it all ties together, was, hey, if anything's going to inspire Matt Ishbia to make a deal, it's going to be getting his teeth kicked in by his rival, Dan Gilbert. And kicked in by his rival, Dan Gilbert, he did. We have a deal. And Brendon, I mean, listen, man, slow clap. Other people may have reported a week ago that this wasn't a prediction. You were the first one before anyone. I'm not going to name names, and I almost did, but you were the first one to say, hey, listen, the Suns could potentially trade this pick for other picks. So look at you. It's victory lap time, Brendon. Every now and then we let you have one.
I took a little one with you on text earlier, but it
wasn't good
with
enough.
all credit, I do think I'm not a loyal minute-to-minute listener of the Burns and Gambo show, but I believe, judging from the clip that I did watch of Gambo giving some additional intel when this trade went down, he did kind of hint at this apparently. And it's not a surprise because the Suns have done a trade like this before. And so let's get into it and we can be more specific. The Suns today traded their 2031 pick, which we've referenced a million times since the summer. That pick will go unprotected to the Utah Jazz. In return, the Suns will get 3 first-round picks. So we will get to the Jimmy Butler ramifications, the Bradley Beal ramifications, but let's react to this trade just at face value first. Those picks, Ben, are going to be the worst of, in 2025, the Cavs, the Wolves, and the Jazz. In 2027, the Cavs, the Wolves, and the Jazz. I thought it was 1 year was different, but no, all 3, 25, 27, 29, those are going to be the 3 teams, and the Suns will get the worst one. So just to be more specific even than that and put a number to it, in 2025, the Suns are most likely, we're talking about the 30th pick in the draft because it's Cleveland and they're probably going to have the best record in the NBA. So that's how this is going to work. But the bottom line is the Suns now have 3 picks instead of 1.
Yeah, there is something just to be said that it's not a second-round pick. It's a first-round pick. That's also the contract stipulations that can be done with that. The first-round rookie that you gets a different deal than the second-round guy. So I'll be honest with you. I was very skeptical, and I am so okay with being wrong. I thought the Suns were done making deals. I just didn't think they had the assets. Didn't expect them to do something like this. But Danny Ainge, you dirty dog, you love these picks that are further down the road. Where I'm talking about the Brooklyn Nets years ago, or now with the Suns, where he's willing to cash that lottery ticket. And I was a little surprised by the amount of value that they got for those picks. I know that they're later first-round picks, but call it what it is. Let's say if the Suns, because it's still a lottery, let's say they have the 5th overall pick in the draft in 2031, and it'll suck for that season because they gave it up unless the Suns win a title or unless they're really good. which I guess wouldn't make sense if they're the fifth overall pick. But if that happens, the NBA draft is such a crapshoot, man. Reed Shepherd is in the G League right now. The kid that's playing for the Timberwolves right now, he's barely playing. Like, NBA draft is a crapshoot, man. And I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Listen, they drafted Ryan Dunn with the 20-something overall pick. I bet you if they redid that draft, he might go 5th overall now. So, whatever, man. I am all in on it.
Yeah, I just, they're not going to make any of these picks, right? So, like, we don't even need to break it down in terms of the value that they might have if they draft 30th. They're not making the Cavs pick this year. They're not going to make they're not going to make this pick in 2027 or 2029 would be my guess.
No shot.
Without a doubt.
No shot.
And so, yeah, I think for people to maybe understand why this was able to happen, where this pick held such a high value. I mean, we were texting about this a little bit before, right? I think it was the Suns had 2 Heat picks that they got back for Goran Dragic once upon a time. If you remember, those basically both became Mikal Bridges. That was how the Suns were able to trade into the number 10 slot in that draft in 2018 and get Mikal Bridges. Even a little bit before that, I believe it was a Lakers pick that ended up getting tied up with the 6. It bounced around after the Suns sent it away, and that pick was from the Steve Nash trade when he left the franchise, but it was part of how they, as far as I'm memory serving me right, how they got Brandon Knight. Like, it is just that these really, really far out picks hold value. I know in this modern era where every trade has like many first round picks attached to it, it doesn't always feel like that, but that is where we stand. So I think that's a helpful reminder for people to get it. It's not so much like knowing where the pick might land or anything like that. It's more so just the simple fact that it could be number 1, and the further out you go with a team that's capped out and old, the more value this has.
I found that trade, by the way. The Suns got the 2021 first round unprotected pick from the Miami Heat and a 2017 top 7 protected pick. So a little stroll down memory lane. I could have swore that pick was not 2021, but that makes sense that they used that pick and flipped it and got Mikal Bridges at that time. But I mean, I think mostly what I was getting back to is I'm just surprised that they had this much or that they got this much from them. I think it was a great deal from James Jones, and I still think that he is, and I agree that Matt Ishbia is probably pulling some of the levers, but if you're going to, and I think this is important, if you are going to throw blame, and I'm not just pointing at you specifically, I'm saying the Suns landscape of like James Jones isn't a very good GM. Well, like, I do think he's better than the top half of GMs in the NBA. I mean, he drafted Ryan Dunn. He drafted Cam Johnson. I mean, yeah, there's been whiffs here and there. The NBA draft is a crapshoot. Landry Shamet wasn't great, but Chris Paul, he's continuously gone all in. Technically, he made the Kevin Durant deal. So if you're like, I think it was kind of a win, man. I can't believe they found a team, which shows that Bill Simmons to shut the hell up. That obviously my first thought was, I guess they weren't annoying too many teams, because I know that they're late
Utah
first round
doesn't
picks.
Think that they're doing them a favor.
It's Danny Ainge. It makes sense. It makes sense that it's Danny Ainge, man. The fact that he has a history of liking these later picks, but man, that pick is 6 years from now. Well, the other part you have to remember
from the Utah standpoint is, but Ben, that makes it more valuable. That's
what
we keep talking about. That's more valuable than next year.
Brendan, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. I know less when I know what's going on 6 years from now.
But that is exactly why it is so valuable, because you're talking about a team whose best player
you
is
were always on that.
A team that's very expensive, a team that, by the way, also doesn't have any picks between now and then, so it's not like they're going to draft, Cooper Flagg next year and then they're set up for years and they're going to be good for a while. This is a team that you're shorting. You're betting the stock for the Suns will crash, and by 2031, you will be there to collect on your investment. But what I was going to say is Utah also, it's not even their picks. The Suns, these picks that the Suns just got are basically a couple of splits, but they're basically stuff that the Jazz got for their teardown when they sent out Mitchell and Gobert. So this is just extra to them. They're sending out extra stuff, and they're getting back a very primo asset. But I wanted to tie a bow on this by saying that this, when I mentioned at the very top that part of why I predicted this is because the Suns themselves have done it. If we go back to the summer of 2023, after they did the Bradley Beal trade, they already did this. They got multiple second-round picks back for resplitting some of the picks that they had sent to Washington. People might forget that, but that's a big part of how they got Royce O'Neal. It's a big part of how they were able to get off of campaign and dump his salary once upon a time. And it's some of how I think they were able to maneuver this year in the draft when they got Oso. So that all, it pays off, and the Suns have proven that this is something that they're going to try to explore. But obviously it's very risky, and they'll have to nail the next thing. Right, Ben?
You don't, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we'll get to that in just a second, but like, I'm willing to admit, man, I was wrong. You were right on legitimately every step of this. You don't really like to hear that. I can see you shelling away as I speak, but I can't believe it. I'm surprised that it was this valuable. I thought both teams got a good end of the deal. Like you had mentioned, it's not even the Jazz's picks, but I mean, all I heard was no team's going to do the Suns a favor, and I believed that. And it seems like the Jazz did the Suns a solid, and now it seems like we're just waiting for the Bucks to do their part of this deal. So, did your tease for you.
Obviously, this made everybody think, okay, the Jimmy stuff is coming to a head. So, does it mean that? Next. First, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. We all love going to live events, whether it is your Phoenix Suns, maybe some comedy, concert, theater, if you're a Broadway person. I have Wicked tickets later this year. I don't know if they were a gift. I don't know if my mom, who got them for my wife and I.
To New York?
If she
like on
used
Broadway?
No. To go see at Gamage, to go see Wicked.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh my goodness.
And I don't know if my mom knows about Gametime. I don't know if she's a Locked On Suns listener, but you guys all are, so you know about Gametime. And you know about Gametime Picks, which is the awesome new feature from Gametime that allows you to filter out the fluff, only see the best deals on the best seats, and save time, not searching through thousands, but seeing the best values right up top. When you go to an event, when you go to a city, when you go to a category, Gametime Picks says, here's the best stuff. Not always up front, not always the absolute cheapest, but the best value, the best bang for your buck, and that's what buying tickets, of course, is all about. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Coming back, keeping the show rolling. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. Lots of trade coverage this time of year. NBA, Suns, fantasy implications, all of it. Plus, keep up with the show and support the show all in one place. Best of all, it's free for you. Okay. So, Ben, just a matter of time. What number is Jimmy going to wear for the Suns?
What is he going to wear? Can he wear 22?
Well,
someone wearing 22
Mason
right now?
Plumlee, right? Is 22?
Yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and hand that over to Jimmy Butler. How about you just be happy that you're still on the team? Much less worrying about what number Mason Plumlee's going to get. Yeah, I'm too worried about that. How about this for a question? I think last week I was at 45%. I had significantly came down from 85% that Jimmy Butler was headed to Phoenix, where at first I was like 90. And it's definitely fluctuated. That's how this, I texted you. I was like, man, I'm exhausted. This story every day I'm here and then I'm here. Where are you at now? I want to know, what is your percentage that Jimmy Butler is going to be here? Or are we just trading Bradley Beal to Brooklyn and we're getting Cam Johnson and we're getting the band back together?
Man, we'll have plenty of time to discuss what they should do, but I think we'll do right now.
That's a great topic.
Will do right now. I mean, I'm like at 90%. I mean, 95. I mean, it feels like an inevitability at this point, right? Because not only because this just to spell it out for people, right? Like this whole thing was, it became clear once Miami drew a hard line about Beal that this was going to need to include multiple teams. and we will talk about the update on the Beal side, but just to put it in the simplest terms possible for right now, Beal, the rumors and reports would suggest now that Beal is coming around to the idea of going elsewhere. So now we have this situation on our hands where the Suns need to find a home for Beal. They need to appease the team taking Beal potentially. They need to maybe send something to Miami to help the package go down. They also have a malcontent center who is, basically self-combusting in Yusuf Nurkic. Not exactly understanding what, not to make light of it if it is serious, but I've never seen a flu like this, Ben. Let me tell you. I know the pandemic's over. I know all the NBA guys got vaccinated. It's not COVID. It's a flu. I've never seen a flu that knocks guys out like this, so I don't know what's going on there. And so you got to figure that out. And what this trade did is it gave the Suns more tools in their toolbox to do all that stuff because they have 3 picks instead of 1.
So before, just really quickly, what do you think was a better package? The 2031 pick and 3 second rounders and Beal, essentially, for Beal, or 2 first rounders and your last second rounder that is also this year and Beal for Butler? What do you think is a better package? Do you have to add that third first rounder to it? Because I believe the best version that the Suns can come out of this is, because I think it's a great segment to do what the Suns should do on another day. But if they're going to go all in, I do think that in this scenario, if you can ship off 2 first rounders and Beal and your second rounder and get some help from Milwaukee and get some help from the Bulls, whatever other team, and you can get Jimmy here and you can push out Nurkic and somehow, I don't know, you get Patrick Williams back. I don't even know if the money works. I'm just naming names at this point. And you attach a first to that. Seriously, man, I think that team is then in business. And if what you're seeing here in Phoenix, why would you want to play here? The only reason is they're just always all in. I'd rather have what the Suns are doing now than what other teams are doing and being cowardly. So, that's where I'm at with it, man. Does that make sense that if we're going to go all in, let's do it the right way? Do you think it's going to take all of these picks for Jimmy? Because if you are preaching right now in the comment section, keep those picks, we are saved, you are going to be sadly mistaken very soon.
Yeah, they're not keeping the picks. They wouldn't have done this trade if they were going to keep the picks.
The 2031.
Exactly. And I don't know. I guess I'll have to see the final trade to be able to maybe fully answer your question. But I don't think what I can say for sure is I'm almost positive that the picks that the Suns now have are not going to all go to Miami. Because if that was the case, then I think the Heat would have just preferred to keep the 2031 pick also. They did this on purpose. So them splitting and now having multiple assets, for one, tells me they want to do multiple things with those assets. So I think a lot of bigger constructions are now on the table. I think that's smart. That's what the market told them was going on here, is that they couldn't just do something clean and tidy with the Heat, and they needed to get a little bit broader. So now they have the assets to do that. But as far as which pathway is better, I can't answer that until I know what this pathway even is. The other pathway was send all the stuff for Jimmy. I can tell you what I think of that. But now we're past that. I don't know what this one's going to be. But I do think it might be useful to be a little bit more concrete here, because there was also there's this tangent toward, maybe we could just jump to the next segment here, because it's Beal, basically it's Beal related at this point, where Beal to Milwaukee is starting to feel like it could be part of this. That had come out beforehand. Then there was a little more fuel to that fire on Tuesday morning, and now this trade means that there's going to be more teams. And if the Bucks are the one coming out, that might be where this is headed. So let's break that down next. Closing out the show. One more plug for the wonderful Locked On Suns daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. But let's get into it. So we had both read this article, Ben, on Tuesday morning from The Athletic. And just to give people a insight into who wrote this article, This is Fred Katz. He recently got promoted at The Athletic to be the national NBA reporter over there. Do stories like this that cover the, multiple.
Who's he taking over for?
News and situations. Yeah, well, Shams, right? But
it's a big shoes to fill.
I mean, he's not an insider though. That's the thing. He's more of a, kind of longer form guy, but
yeah.
The more important part of this, a lot of his career was spent covering the Washington Wizards. And this is also a guy who earlier this season, I believe we talked a little bit about some of the nuggets from one of the last stories he wrote, and he was in Phoenix for that. I saw him, about Bradley Beal settling into a new situation. So, I'm not trying to blow up Fred's spot here. Let's just say Fred Katz probably knows what he's talking about when it comes to Bradley Beal. And when there's anonymous sources cited here, I think our audience can fill in the blanks of where that information may have come from. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way.
Who do you think leaked it? Was his name Schmadley Schmiel? Was that the? Does Brad have a brother we don't know about?
Right. So when it says a source close to the situation, yeah. So, okay. No. Here is the wording: a source familiar with his thinking. It's like.
He said it into the mirror, Katz when he was saying it.
It's like in Hollywood how it's like a source close to the Kardashian family, and then everybody knows it's just them, But, so okay.
Oh, that's so funny.
But this
what
was
a way
the
to
gist
get
of it.
What a way to get around being fined, Beal. What a way.
Basically. So, the gist of it is this: two things, Ben. One, allegedly they have still yet to ask Beal about his specific thoughts on a destination or what a trade could look like. And secondly, he would be open to waiving his no trade clause for the right destination, which I think we basically knew, but this is the most concrete of it. So those almost feel like pulling in different directions. One of those would make me think this thing's happening tomorrow. The other one is like, well, they haven't talked to him about anything specific yet. So how far away are we? What does this side of it make you think now that we've covered the picks and the Jimmy side of it?
It's a real ball drop by the Suns that they haven't at least said something to Beal like, hey, man, this is a possibility. We didn't get upset with it when it was Nurkic because we do not care. But Beal at least is still paid like a star player, even if potentially he's not that guy anymore. So I do think that was a little bit of a ball drop, but I do see the reasoning, meaning they were working on this in the back channels and they wanted to be sure they had this done before they talked to Beal. Now that this trade is done, by the time this podcast has been recorded, by the time that trade went down at, I think, 5 o'clock, I think that they've talked to Beal. They're like, hey, listen, man, this is what's going on. And I also think that the timeliness of this was very interesting. It's not just who leaked the story, but when does it leak? This story leaked Tuesday morning. The Suns made a trade Tuesday night. They knew something was coming. I think this was an indirect way, as direct as it can get without getting fined, but to Ishbia, hey, man, I do hold all the cards. You do need to talk to me. What do you think? Isn't that kind of a fair theory?
I think everything you said
as well as like dropping the ball.
Yeah, but I think you're right that it's probably not so much of dropping the ball as the rest of Tuesday unfolded. So, like, I don't know if it's so much dropping the ball or trying to just get everything lined up. Because we kind of talked about this the last time Beal spoke up about it, where we were like, well, on the one hand, there's a certain level of respect and openness you got to have, but also you have to know what you're talking to him about. Otherwise, what, are you going to call him into Bartelstein's office and just say, like, in theory, we might, perhaps, possibly trade you, so be ready for that, maybe, possibly. Like, what, you know what I mean? So I think what they're doing here is, in the next any minute, they can call Papa Bartelstein and Brad and say, this is the exact thing we would like to do. Our understanding is you would be open to going to Milwaukee, for instance. We have an offer from Milwaukee, yes or no? You know what I mean? So I can kind of see it both ways where you have to respect him, but also being vague and hypothetical doesn't really do anybody any favors. So the Suns have just had a lot of work to do to get to the point where they can even be specific.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone was lying when they were saying Bradley Beal was at least being talked about in trade conversations. Now, maybe nothing was close at that point, but I do think you got to talk to your star
players. Or do they
players.
just already know? I mean, he was on the trade market a year and a half ago. I can't imagine it's changed a ton. Maybe they just have a general ballpark of ideas of teams he would and would not be okay going to, and they're just working off of that list until the time comes where they need to expand it. Because right now we're talking about the Bucks, who we know he'd be open to playing for because he already was a year and a half ago.
I don't know, man. I think it would piss me off too if I was in Beal's position and I had kids. Like, people forget that there's more than just the sports side of this. There's a human side to this.
Yeah, this story said he finally moved. He had an off-season home in LA that he sold, and now Phoenix is home for him.
Yeah, he's got kids that he's already put in school. He's potentially thinking about moving to Milwaukee and leaving his kids in school, or maybe bringing them with him and then coming back. Some players do that. Like, he has a wife as well. Like, there are things, extenuating circumstances that aren't just about basketball. So when you have a player that's getting paid $50 million a year, and for the most part, he's been accustomed to staying at one place for a long time, that being Washington, you do need to speak to that guy, especially when he's not on a one-year deal. And even if you don't have a deal in place, you do need to, you got to do something. So you'd be like, hey, man, this is coming up. We don't want you to be the only ones. Right now, we're in preliminary talks. We don't think it's a thing. But before we even get there, what do you think? I like your theory of it too, but there's the human side of it as well that I really side with.
Yeah, it's delicate.
But either way, now, do you think that they've talked to him by what time is it that we recorded this? 8:05 p.m. our time? Have they talked to Brad?
This is an annoying answer, I know. I'll say yes, but I'll say yes because I think that all this he said nonsense, I just kind of dismiss generally. That's why I'm kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit in the first place. It's sort of like what we talked about when Beal and Nurkic got benched, where I was like, okay, they didn't have a conversation with these guys. Oh, what is going on? You can hear me, yes? We're good?
I can hear you. You sound great.
Beautiful,
crispy voice.
I got a phone call, and it screwed me up. I don't have.
Tell your amazing wife that we got a few more minutes.
Worst, it was spam. It was spam. I don't even get to. But okay, so here, finish of what I'm saying. It's like what we were talking about with them getting benched, where. Okay, so Bud didn't say anything, but obviously, I mean, you knew your name wasn't getting called when the announcer said the starting lineup, so you were told at some point, so it's like, okay, you haven't been talked to about this trade. What does that exactly mean? You haven't been presented with a specific destination and full package and everything, so, but I'll say that they have talked to him, and I would guess that they've maybe been a little more open with him than his comments and his leaking have suggested, would be my completely uninformed take. But at the same time, to look forward a little bit, I would still be worried that he would go, of all the places that have kind of been rumored as third, fourth teams where he could go, where you're talking, like on the internet, you'll see Detroit, you'll see Chicago, you'll see whatever.
Always so weird.
I kind of think the Bucks might be the only place that I've heard that I would believe he's going to go. So I'm not taking this as he'll go anywhere now. He's pissed. He's finished. He's off. He's gone. They still got to get him to a place he wants to go, and that might only be in Milwaukee at this point.
Agreed. We don't have to answer this, but I don't really understand why Milwaukee would do it. I get Middleton isn't really that guy either, but if I'm not mistaken, Beal's contract is longer than his, and I know it's more expensive than his, but whatever. They're in a win now mode. Giannis is calling the shots over there. But without that being said, Brendon, what is your prediction? When do you think, I think we're both in agreement this is going to happen. What do you think it will look like? That being, is it 3 first for Jimmy? 2 first? Do you think that maybe someone else comes back? And when do you think that happens?
Oh God. Okay.
Because like we can't be waiting till February 6th. I can't be doing this
No.
show.
This is
from-
happening in the next week, right? I mean, at this
I hope
point, 'cause
sooner.
the part of it we didn't even talk about with Butler is that he apparently he's back with the team, but he met again with leadership over there, including the owner, who rarely gets involved because he lets Pat Riley do everything, and Butler apparently tripled down on the trade. You know what I mean? And not only on the trade, but on Phoenix. And so it's all just coming to a head. You got Brad leaking this. You got a trade for picks. You got Butler continuing to be a menace and everything. It's like this is happening. So that answers the if and the when. I think it will, and I think it'll be relatively soon. The what to me, and you got to give your prediction too here, but
yeah, I'm going to.
I think they only use 2 of the picks in the Butler trade, and I do think one way or another Nurkic and a pick goes somewhere for something else. I'm not even going to try to – we haven't spent enough time thinking through that, so I'm not even going to. But I'll say that only 2 of the 3 picks go for Butler. Maybe what do they have, 1 second left? Whatever. Throw that in there too.
Yeah.
And then I would say I don't think any other player – well, no other players really can come back in the Butler Beal deal.
Josh Richardson, buddy. Relax.
Yeah, I think that's less necessary now that there's more teams. So
it was necessary before. I guess to make the money work. Yeah, I guess to make the money work.
There was like a money and a roster spot and whatever. That was one of the things. So no, I think it would just be Butler. I think 2 picks and Beal go out, and that would be my prediction. And I would say Beal goes to Milwaukee.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think it's 2 firsts, a second to Miami. Brett Siegel put something out that was kind of interesting where Toronto could get involved. We'll get into the logistics of that. But overall, overwhelmingly, the Heat will get a player or 2 to satisfy their fans, I guess, and Pat Riley. Make it save face a little bit. They'll get the brunt of the picks. The whatever team that's just thrown in there will get some picks and some expiring deals. The Bucks will get Beal. The Suns will get Butler. And I think it happens. Oh, my God. Please don't happen on Thursday because I got to work late on Thursday, and I do not want to get a pod out late. But I think it's going to happen Thursday. I think the game tomorrow, just so everyone knows, if Bradley Beal's out sick with the flu tomorrow for that game, that is the only time you may ever conspiracize if he's going to play. But I do think it happens before Friday. I think
Beal is questionable with the left ankle sprain for this game on Wednesday night in Brooklyn.
Questionable on a plane to Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But so yeah, I agree with you. I think by the end of the week, and I think Nurkic gets moved 100%. Which, man, if they can come out of
that
this,
might not happen this week though. The Nurkic thing,
no,
that can
February 6th down the line. If that happens, if on February 7th we're talking about a team that has Butler, something new for Nurk, maybe I don't know, Patrick Williams or something like that, of that nature, I'm ready to get hurt again. There's no question about it. Michael Scott.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. I saw someone tweet this. I forgot who it was. It was some fan member. Forgot who it was, but they said, being a Suns fan, it can be hard, it can be depressing, it can be happy, but it is never boring. And you know what? I couldn't agree more.
Boring.
It is. We haven't run out of things to talk about. So I am ready to be back. Are you ready for Phoenix Suns Big 3 3.0 edition? This year was 2.0. Now we're 3.0.
It's going to be a crazy one because I know no one cares about our content schedule, but this will be the first time that one of these will kind of come together in season pretty quickly, because Durant got traded for in season, but we had spent the whole past summer talking through all the million different possibilities of it, and then it just took a little longer, but it ended up just being that. And then Beal was in the off season, Chris was in the off season, whatever. This one is we're gonna have he's on the team now, and then they'll just have to figure it out. That's gonna be another crazy part of it if it does happen soon.
I know.
Our
big bosses were down our throats, texting us, you guys better get stuff done, or when Jimmy comes here, and he yelled at us, and it was mean and it was offensive, but we're just working, man. We're just working over here.
They bullied us to make good content.
bullied us. He yelled at me. I was on the treadmill when it happened. But that was another thing as well. You actually broke the news to me today while I was mid running on. So that was nice. Fired off some tweets, but let's go, man. Jimmy, can't wait.
My Jimmy Butler t-shirt with the lasso is clean. I'm leaving it up in the closet. So when the time comes, I'll pop on here. I'll be wearing that t-shirt, and we'll be off to the races. So keep it right here, guys. We'll be here for you as soon as we possibly can. Might even just do a quick instant reaction bonus episode whenever it happens, and then get you ready with the big one, a regular episode the next day. So hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. There's also a basketball game that is going to be happening on Wednesday night as the Suns take on the Brooklyn Nets. So that will be there for us to dissect and discuss as well. A badly needed win, as they all are right now. Enjoy the Wednesday, enjoy the game, and we will catch you afterwards.